Hey, and welcome back to another video from Hill and Valley. Today we're going to be talking about our 5 top favorite filmmaking accessories that are all under $25. So as filmmakers, we're always looking for new little things to improve our workflow and our everyday work. And here's a couple things that we found very useful that are all under $25.
Aside from all these products being under $25, these are all filmmaking accessories that we use very frequently.
So a big reason why we're making this video is because there's so many things we come across in our day-to-day that we don't realize that we can use in certain ways to improve our lives and our work. The first item we're going to cover, which is probably the most common that many of you may have already heard of, are Bongo Ties. And Bongo Ties are something you would typically see on a film set, but not always. They're these little rubber bands with, what are they, golf tees?
They look like golf tees, yeah.
Yeah, golf tees on the end. And you can use them most commonly to secure cables, but we've also used them to attach like AC power adapters to tripods and things like that, where a normal rubber band won't work or like a Velcro tie won't work. These are super sturdy, and because they're still rubber, they have a little bit of like an adhesive to them.
They're a little different than rubber bands because the material, like the rubber, has a lot more grip to it, so they're able to, like Adam said, be more secure than like a normal rubber band.
These are super handy and they're really cheap. I keep them in my grip kit so that I always have access to them. We have some tied onto the cart. Basically every bag we have, we just keep a couple in there just so when we're on a shoot and we need to secure something or tie up a cable, we have one available. Probably one of our most used items, and they're also one of the cheapest items on this list. You can get 10 of them for $7. They also come in various sizes, so if you have larger cables or different applications, you can use these for so many different things. One of the most useful items in our day-to-day work. Highly recommend them. The next thing on our list is these SmallRig HDMI cables we bought. We have 2 different sizes. They're very short, both of them. One is 1.15 feet, and I believe the other one is slightly longer. But the important thing about these cables is they're full-size HDMI to HDMI cables, and they're super thin, so they don't get in the way when you're attaching your camera to your monitor.
We use these cables most frequently with our Sony a7S III and our gimbal. We attach a monitor to the gimbal arm. We have the Ronin RS2, and we attach our Shinobi monitor to our a7S III, and the cable makes it easier to maneuver the gimbal, so it's not like the cable's not pulling on the camera and affecting the motors on the gimbal, so it's very nice to have.
Yeah, a lot of the other HDMI cables we've used in the past will like tug on the gimbal and make it really hard to balance. Like the second you hook up the monitor, you have to rebalance the gimbal, which is always a pain. But with this one, because they're so light and they're not like coiled, they're the perfect length. They're not going to pull or add any pressure onto the gimbal, so it won't, like Rick said, overwork the motors or create any other issues. And it stays out of the way. It's super small, easy to bring with you, and they're super cheap. So we picked up a couple of them. They come in 1.15 feet, like I said earlier, and they also come in 1.8 feet. We use both of them. Sometimes we'll use, like you said, on the gimbal. I think we use the slightly longer one, so there's a little bit more room. But when we're hooking up just like a monitor onto a cage, we'll use the shorter one, and it's like the perfect length, stays out of the way, and it's super easy. Okay, so the next item that we're going to talk about is something we've used for a while, but we recently integrated them into our work a lot more once we bought a bunch more of them and kind of like changed up how we were packing gear, and that is lens wraps. Lens wraps are just a super soft piece of fabric with a little bit of cushion to it that also has Velcro, so you can wrap up a lens or a camera, hence the name, and keep it safe and secure when it's in a larger bag and floating around, so it's not bumping into things. And we like these because we go on so many different kinds of shoots that we're often packing different accessories. It's not the same every time, so we can't have like a Pelican case with like memory foam or anything. And the lens wraps allow us to be flexible and kind of pack what we need without having to redesign a bag every time, and it keeps our equipment safe. We specifically use the ones from Tenba. They come in a couple of different sizes. The most common one we use is the 12-inch one, but we do have a couple of the 20-inch ones, which are much larger, so we can wrap up large accessories, like if we ever have to put our gimbal in our doctor's bag. But we also have a couple of the smaller ones for monitors. They also come in a bunch of different colors, which is great, so if you have different types of gear, you can keep it sorted. Like oftentimes we'll have 2 different A7S setups, so we'll make sure that the accessories for one are in a different color. And they also have a little spot on them where you could label You could stick like a label or a piece of paper in there with what is wrapped up in it, so you know what you're grabbing for before you unwrap the item.
And there's Velcro on all four corners usually, and that makes it helpful to wrap a regular camera. So if you have a camera with like a longer or a shorter lens, it makes it easier to wrap the entire thing, so you don't have to worry about getting one lens wrap for a specific camera or a specific lens. It can kind of be used for any piece of equipment that you have.
Yeah, that's a great point. They're super versatile, and we use them for all different types of items, not just cameras or lenses. But like Rick said, a couple of our cameras have cages on them, and we can often keep them protected without having to remove it from the cage, where something like a Pelican case, it might not fit. It might not be adjustable like that. On to our fourth item on this list, and quite possibly our favorite item, which is the SmallRig Super Clamp. Why do we like the SmallRig Super Clamp so much, Rick?
I would say the main reason we like this so much is its versatility, to be honest. We have used it in so many applications that it's pretty crazy, because there's been times that we could have used something else, but we use that instead just because we like it so much and it works so well. We use it the most with our, like I said before, with our gimbal and our Shinobi monitor. When we're using our A7S on the gimbal, we can attach it to the arm on the gimbal and we can articulate the monitor, or if we have a receiver on the end, we can use that.
Yeah, it's gotten us out of a lot of tricky situations where maybe we forgot a specific item that was used to attach like a monitor, like you said, and instead we were able to use this, and it oftentimes works better than the intended item. But as you were mentioning, this one kind of doubles, because not only is it the clamp, but the way that this is designed, you can unscrew the little ball head, which gives you 2 quarter 20s on either end, and you could screw it into something like our RS2 sidearm and use it as a monitor mount. But we've also used it with the clamp quite a lot. We've used it to clamp microphones when we forgot like a boom pole holder. We've used it to clamp Zoom recorders onto C-stands. Really anything with like a quarter 20, you can just basically mount it anywhere now. We've used it to mount our camera overhead, like our RX100 or our RX0. They do have a pretty heavy payload. It's not going to hold like a full-size camera, but it's great in terms of versatility. So this guy has little rubber grips on the inside, which make it super sturdy. Whatever you clamp it onto, you can really trust that it's going to hold on tight. And also it has on the clamp itself, not only a quarter 20 screw, but also 3/8, so you can mount different items. There's been a lot of times where, we forget that one of our items actually has a 3/8 thread and not a quarter 20, and it's super helpful to have this along with you, so you can mount into either side. Another thing I really like about it is it has a little T handlebar on it, which really helps you to tighten the clamp down and make sure that it is secure and not going anywhere. We have a couple of these at this point, but anytime we make an order on B&H, Rick and I are sure to throw just a couple more in the cart because they're so cheap and you can always use them. So this last item might be the least exciting, but for us, it is one of the most useful, and that is the filtered air blower. We specifically have the one by Promaster. These are kind of like your typical air blower that you would use to clean off a lens, but these ones come with little filters on the end, and you can use it to clean off imaging sensors. It's super important to have that filter on the end, because otherwise, with the traditional blower, how it works is it's just sucking in air and pushing it out, and if you don't have a filter on the end, you're just pushing more dust onto your sensor or lens. And also, these ones have a really fine tip, so when it's pushing out air, you can really focus where you're blowing air onto. So if you have something on your sensor, you can really focus on just that spot and make sure that you're getting the full force of air possible.
Yeah, it's good to have in studio and on location. Just when we swap lenses, it's good to check the sensor and check the back of the lens, front of the lens, and just to make sure there's no dust anywhere.
Yeah, most sensor cleaning materials or having your sensor cleaned by a professional can be pretty expensive and also a lengthy process. But 9 times out of 10, when we notice a little spot on our sensor, we are able to get it off with just this. And I think that has to do with just how focused the air is. It's able to have a little bit more power, because obviously you can't use anything like compressed air on your sensor. You will damage your camera. But this thing is just the right amount of power. There's nothing worse than dust on the sensor, so pick one of these up. Thank you guys again for watching. All of the items we mentioned will be listed in the description below. And if you have any questions about any of the items, please feel free to leave us a comment. I hope you guys found this video useful or educational.
And as always, thanks for watching, and we'll catch you guys next time.